Good morning, podcast audience. This is Ed Franklin with the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. It seems like forever since I've done a podcast, but it's only been a week and a half. I actually have some new lighting, a new camera. I'm not pink anymore, which is nice. Remember, you can always reach me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. And I'm looking for guests all the time, authors, salespeople, marketing people, anybody, leadership type people, anything you can think of, and they'd want to be on my podcast. I'd love to have them, and they're welcome to advertise their business. Again, edfranklin.nolimits. Please share as much as you can. This is going to be an interesting, well, it's interesting to me, interesting podcast, just because we're here a week before Thanksgiving, and last year at this time is when I decided, or I was suggested to by my daughter, to start a podcast. And once I got back from Louisiana, where we visited her for Thanksgiving, I started getting the things together, the technical things together. I told you this before. I contacted my young friend Matthew Iskey, who helped me figure out how to do a podcast, and his advice was just do one. If it sucks, and do another one. So hopefully they don't suck. And you're enjoying the podcast. Lately I've gotten less listeners, and maybe it's content, maybe it's my marketing, but I'm working on that. So all that's getting better. And like I said, share, please. And I know we're getting into the week of Thanksgiving, so business-wise, you're probably going to be down a little bit. But if you need some entertainment while you're traveling, please turn on my podcast. So what I wanted to do today is kind of revisit a couple things of what this podcast originally started out to be. And the reason it was called No Limits was two reasons. One, we talk about getting over limitations, and I told you the story about me getting in shape and my wife getting in shape and getting over that limitation we thought we had in our life. And part of that was our weight. And we didn't feel like we could operate at 100% if we were carrying that extra weight. And we were feeling much better. We learned how to eat right, did all those great things. And we had a couple unfortunate tragedies happen in our life that turned us around a little bit. And then COVID hit, which did not help at all. But the reason this is called No Limits is because of getting over those limitations. And funny enough, I was at somewhere the other day, and I was telling somebody about the podcast, and they said, well, how do you get over limitations? And it was just a funny question to me, because first of all, you have to identify that limitation. Now, what's holding you back? It could be getting in shape. It could be drinking, smoking. It could be a lot of different things. It could be you're just not doing enough marketing, not enough networking, whatever it is. You have to identify that limitation and then take the steps to get over that limitation. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Three more things in the no limit. And then the no limits was also that we can talk about anything. It doesn't have to be, I kind of tend to stay away from politics. I tend to stay away from religion. I don't really like talking about those things. That's my personal view. You have yours. We can agree to disagree or agree to agree, whatever we decide to do. And I'd just rather not get into that. So it does pop up here and there sometimes, and that's okay. But I don't want this podcast to be built around that. The other thing was storytelling. And of course, having been in sales for a long time, it's very important to learn how to tell your story and to tell it positively and tell the right story, right? And the story you're telling yourself is super important. We've talked about that. I did a whole podcast. Well, that was kind of weird. The color just went out there. I'm working with this camera and this new technology. So the other thing was telling yourself that correct story. What story are you telling you about your life? Is it a good story? Is it positive things? I know negative things have happened in your life. That's okay. Everybody has that happen. But do people need to hear that every 5 minutes, or they want to hear what you took out of that negativity? Getting over this issue with self-esteem. Everybody suffers from low self-esteem at times. We seem to be having a lot more in the last 2 years, especially after COVID, people being cooped up at home, not knowing what the future is going to be like, not knowing how to create a new future if that's what you want to do. So self-esteem is huge. It's that looking in the mirror every day. And I did a whole podcast on looking in the mirror and telling yourself the right things and trying to get over those limitations, telling that story and looking at yourself and building up that self-esteem. A lot of building up that self-esteem is being around the right people, getting good information in, right? And many times we hang out with people that are Debbie Downers, and they're telling us we can't do something or we shouldn't do something. you know, those type of people will just not get you moving forward. So I've told you this before, what you're reading and who you're hanging out with, I can tell you where you'll be in 2 years. You got to hang around those positive people. And of course, the never ending excuses. So excuses are dream killers. I mean, and I've always joked around that I have the best excuses. I can make an excuse to get out of anything. And I started something about 32 days ago, kind of a 90-day, you know, redirection in my life, a lot of things changing, and I'll tell you more about that once the 90 days is over, and kind of I'm keeping track of it and kind of you know, figuring out what's going on with that and how it's helping me improve. And you know, just it's just something I needed to do. And it's funny, you know, as January approaches, people are going to start doing New Year's resolutions, which I think are fine. I mean, if you're going to stick to them, they're fine. It's a good time to, it's the beginning of a year, things are fresh, you know. I just think that if you're really committed to changing something, you'll change it now. It doesn't matter if the holidays are coming, doesn't matter if your birthday's coming up, if you have parties planned and you're, you know, if your goal is to stop drinking and you got 17 parties planned that you're going to be drinking at, start anyway, just start right away. And if you have to get through those parties without drinking or doing whatever you're trying to stop doing, eating, whatever it is, then do it. You know, just get off your ass and do it. And me telling you that all the time, I had to do the same thing. I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, look, I'm preaching this stuff. I better be, you know, friggin' doing it if I'm going to preach it. Something I'll keep looking over to the right here because I have a meme that, you know, I post memes on Facebook every day, try to be real positive with people. And I get great responses from that. Some people love the memes. Some people just like them. Some people just ignore them, which is fine. But it's funny. I'll always hit somebody, you know, every 6 or 8 weeks, that same person comes back and says, man, I needed this today or whatever. So I continue to do that every day. Post a meme. And the one I'm looking at right now is to inspire people. Don't show them your superpowers, show them theirs. And I think that this whole podcast was built around me encouraging you to do what you want in your life and showing you. And I always tell you, if I could sit with you for 10 minutes, I could draw things out of you, positive things out of you that would empower you to go on to that next level, to get to that next thing, to, you know, take a couple risks, things like that. I'm not saying jumping off cliffs, but, you know, sometimes you gotta, if you want to take the island, you gotta burn the fucking boats, right? So I think it's, you know, as we're coming kind of out of COVID, you know, it keeps resurfacing and going away. Listen, we got to take some action. We can't wait for society or the government or Fauci or whoever we're waiting for. We can't wait for them to make the determination of how our life's going to be. Just because prices are really high right now, then you need to make more money. I mean, don't count on the government or anybody else in your life to correct the things that you're not caring for. You need to do it yourself. So that's about getting over these limitations. If you're sitting there waiting for things to happen, stop waiting, get going. If you want to write a book, write a page, you know, just do one thing, write a title, do anything you can to start moving your life forward. And, you know, I was kind of thinking last night about how thankful, you know, as we're coming on to Thanksgiving, of course, everybody and their brother is going to be talking about how thankful we are for different things. And we tend to forget that gratefulness in our life, that we need to be more grateful on a regular basis. And I'm totally guilty of this. I look around myself, I look around what I have, what I've built up, and, you know, my family and my wife and all these people that are inspiring to me. And I take those people for granted sometimes. It's just kind of human nature. But I'm not starting at the bottom. I'm not 20 years old, you know, I'm starting in the middle somewhere. And I'm finding that, you know, being grateful is super important every day you wake up. You know, when you get to my age, you start being grateful that you woke up. You know, you start going to the doctor on a regular basis and finding out things that could be a problem, maybe could not be a problem. Nothing better than going to the doctor and getting a good report. So there's all those things that you should be grateful for. And of course, I was just thinking about all the people that we need in life that we don't really, you know, understand, that are out there that we should be thankful for. Like, for instance, if you have a car and you put gas in it and you put oil in it, you do all those things. Imagine all the people that worked to get you that car, right? You had to buy it, of course, but the manufacturers and the employees that go to work every day and put that car together correctly, and the people at the, at Evans Tire that do your oil change or get you tires, or there's all these people. And I talk about value, and these are all these people with value to us, right? All the people at Amazon and, Walmart, wherever you shop, Nordstrom, I don't care, wherever you go, all these people are working to get you something. And yes, they get paid for it and they do all that, but they're struggling in life too. So we need to, I don't know about recognizing those. I'm not going to go out and see everybody at Amazon, but as you're going through your day, those smiles, those hellos, all those little things in life that we probably take for granted too, we need to stop taking those for granted and kind of give a genuine hello, a genuine, we go to the grocery store quite a bit, kids and things like that. And I used to be in that business, and I appreciate what those people do, because it's not an easy job all the time. No one's job is easy all the time. And I try to, lighten the mood when I'm with those people, and thank them for what they're doing, and kind of show them that I appreciate it. I mean, you can just make someone's day by that smile or saying something nice. And as corny as this sounds, it's a benefit to you too, to be grateful, to recognize people that are helping you that you don't even know. It's great. It's important to you to do that. That generosity that you're putting out there, that gratefulness, those thank yous and good mornings and all those things, those are good for your soul. I really believe that. And they keep you at a higher level of operating, right? You're just in a better mood. You're going to do things. When you start getting those negative thoughts in your head, you start to, you kind of start to decrease your motivation, right? You stop taking those steps to do those things you want to do. I saw this great demonstration yesterday online, and it was this teacher or professor, looked like in a classroom setting, holding a glass of water. And he was asking his students, how much do you think this water weighs? And one student said 8 ounces, another one said 12 ounces, 10 ounces, there's 16 ounces, whatever. And he says, it really doesn't matter how much this water weighs. It's the fact that if I was not allowed to set this water down, after an hour of holding this glass of water, who is really light when I picked it up the first time, starts to become a little bit heavier, right? Starts to become a little bit more burdensome to hold that glass of water. So after an hour, it starts, my body starts changing, my arms maybe getting a little crampy, my shoulders are starting to feel that weight, and the glass starts getting heavier. And you think about doing that for 4 hours. If you just held this glass of water for 4 hours, how it would start affecting you. And now your body's starting to cramp up. Now your legs are starting to get fatigued. Your back is still fatigued. Your arm is getting almost numb. You can't really move around because you'll spill the glass of water. And then think of having it for 8 hours, and how now both of your arms are getting numb because you're standing in the same place. The bottom of your feet start to have a lot of pain. You start to have this. And the whole point is, you now think of this glass of water as stress, or think of this as a problem or something you're dwelling on that's not positive. It stops you from getting anything done, right? If you're holding that glass of water all day, you can't go pick up your kids. You can't, read that book. You can't write that first page of that book. You can't make that sales call. You can't do anything because it's paralyzed you. And if you think about that vision, and how holding that glass of water, that stress, that problem, that regret, that whatever it is, that hate for somebody, it just paralyzes you. And what you really need to do is just set that glass of water down and go on with your day. You got to put it behind you. You cannot change yesterday. I thought it was such a good demonstration. And of course, the way they did it, it was probably actors doing it or whatever, but it made a point to me that I'm holding on to some things, right? There's just some things that I'm holding on to that I need to let go. They're holding me back. They're keeping me from being creative. They're keeping me from getting things done, doing this podcast. Now, the reason I waited to do this podcast is I wanted to get one in before Thanksgiving, and I did need to get this technology straight. I was on a podcast a while back, and I had breast cancer awareness stuff behind me on my background, and it was pink. And someone said, "Oh, how do you do that with your face? Your face is pink too." And I said, "I'm not doing that with my face. It's my lighting and it's the camera. That's why I got this new camera, so I could stop being pink." So you got to put that glass of water down. You got to stop holding on to those things that are in your past, because they're going to hold you back from moving forward. We need to be grateful. We have, if you read stories about Thanksgiving, whatever you learned in school and things like that, it's become a holiday that hopefully we're getting kicked in the head before Christmas or whatever you celebrate in December, that starts to make us relax a little bit, stop being so stressed out, maybe realize that we need to contact family members we haven't contacted. We need to contact friends we haven't contacted. Listen, I'm not super happy with everybody that's been in my life. I'm a little actually pissed off that I'm not getting the response that I used to get from emails or phone calls or texts. I think people are kind of checking out for the holidays. I think they checked out during COVID. Our marketing business isn't doing the business we were doing before. I think people are not understanding they need to keep branding. And I think we'll have a good year next year because they're going to realize, but they should have never stopped. We should have never stopped engaging with our friends, with our business partners, with networking, things like that. We should be doing these things on a regular basis. I get 95% of my business in the past from networking, and I have not been able to go to networking events because of whatever reason. It could be excuses. It could be that they're just not having them. They're not very populated. And, unfortunately, me going and talking to the same 5 people, every week, you need more people out there to do. So I have some things coming up that I'll be advertising soon, that I'm partnering with some other companies about networking, about, building those sales teams and doing everything. I have a lot of irons in the fire. Things are going to be coming up. So please keep listening to my podcast, because when I advertise these things, you're probably going to want to get involved in these, especially if you're in the sales background, if you have a sales background or you're in that networking space. The 2 nonprofit educational supplemental education companies, they're going to be a lot more important next year. They're starting to get the wind underneath their wings. So something else I wanted to talk about today was I'm involved in 2 nonprofits that are organizations that have several people, a couple hundred or more people involved in them. And I'm witnessing the leadership starting to fail in that they're not engaging the people that volunteer. When that happens, volunteers stop volunteering, right? There's a saying in the Knights of Columbus that nobody volunteers to do nothing. And when you have nothing for them to do and you're not engaging, you're not letting them, do their job, they'll stop doing it. They will just disengage. It happens in paid companies too. I've worked with companies before that the culture of the company was so stale that the employees were just picking up their checks. They weren't coming to work with ideas and to get to that next level, to change what they're doing, to look at new ways of doing what they were doing that are more profitable or that are more efficient. And these 2 organizations I'm ready to just bail on completely because, or take more of a leadership role, because when I was leading those people, I engaged them. I appreciated what they were good at. I tried to find those skills that they were good at and get them engaged. You all have special skills. You all have an intrinsic value. I've talked about this 100 times. I'll talk about it 1,000,000 more. You have this value in life, to your family, to everything. And I know it's repetitive, but if I don't bang it into your head, you're not going to get it. And as we come into the holidays and you're having these, some new relationships, but these older relationships that you're taking for granted, that you're not engaging those people, like I just talked about with these nonprofits, it's going to be a lose-lose for you. You need to kind of rejuvenate. Don't wait till January 1st. You need to do it now. You're going to have a lot of opportunities over the next 6 weeks during the holidays to see people in a different light. I think during this time when I was doing a lot of sales and working for companies, I found that people were a little bit more relaxed during this time. There's always those businesses that kind of ramp up at the end of the year, but for the most part, a lot of businesses start to kind of settle down and people become more real and kind of get back to their normal personality. They're not so wound up. If you're in sales, this is a good opportunity to find out what people's pain is, right? To find out what problems they may have had in the last 12, 18 months or 2 years besides COVID, and how you can help them moving forward. So really important. And in their personal life too, it's a good chance to find out a little bit more about people's personal lives and find out if there's anything you can offer through your story, through your life experiences that could help them and encourage them. You know, the richest person in the world, the most confident person in sports, the most everything, they all have areas in their life where they need some encouragement, where they need that hug, where they need, you know, that kind of, you know, you can do it kind of thing, that encouragement. Again, I'm kind of overusing that word, but they all need it. We all need to have those people in our life that are helping us move forward. And like I said in my last podcast, we need those people that smack us up the back of the head too, like Donozo gets from Gibbs on NCIS, to kind of kick us in the ass. Last night was the first, we just rejoined the gym. We're going back. Although I have workout equipment here, I wasn't being very disciplined with it. And it felt so good to go back to the gym and be in that atmosphere with, you know, mostly positive people. I wasn't talking to anybody, but all these people are there trying to improve themselves, and it felt good to get into that space. I think the gym is a good place for that. And my grandson, Carson, is actually lifting weights with me, which was exciting because he was, you know, he wants to, you know, further his health too. So it was really good to get back into that. And although I'm at a different gym location wise, I did not see people I know, but I can go to the other gym and see people. And that's going to be good for me. I need to be around people. I've always been in jobs where I was around a lot of people. And of course, COVID kind of killed that. I wasn't able to have that human touch. And to be honest with you, I didn't think I really gave a shit about that. But now that I haven't had it, I kind of look back at it and I miss being, you know, face to face with people. So that's kind of turning around. So I know I'm rambling a little bit. I'm kind of saying the same thing I always say in my podcast. And we do have some good guests coming up. It's going to be, you know, I've survived now for 11 months doing these podcasts. I encourage you to go to my YouTube channel, edfranklin.nolimits, and follow me and, you know, share my podcast. Go through the library. There's, you know, probably 50 podcasts there, maybe 30. I don't know. Doesn't matter. There's a bunch. If you're traveling this week, next week, put on a podcast. 99% of it is clean. If your kids are in the car, they might hear a bad word, but probably nothing they don't hear at school. But it's good for them too, because it's just about encouraging people to do what they want. I want to tell you about an experience I had last Friday. Piper, my granddaughter, goes to Maranatha schools, and I got to go to her because she was a student of the week last week, and I got to go to her classroom and speak to 23 second graders and kind of tell them what I do and answer questions from them and things like that. It was really a great experience because kids are so awesome, right? They're just so honest, you know, at one point I had told them what I did for a living, and the funniest thing, the first thing they want to talk about is my tattoos, because I didn't have a long sleeve shirt on. So the first thing they want to talk about is tattoos. I steered them away from that because none of them need any tattoos, and I didn't want to glamorize it. You know, I don't know how their parents feel about that. But the greatest thing is when I went around the room, I went around to every child and asked them what they wanted to do. And, you know, there were the firemen and the police officers and NFL and baseball players and dancers and singers. And what was so great is they had so much confidence about it, right? There was no, I want to do this. It was like, I'm going to do this. That's how, and we need to steal some of that confidence from those kids. The great thing too, is they would say, one kid might put his hand up and say, you know, I want to be a police officer. And then we'd go around and then he'd put his hand up again. He said, actually, I want to go in the NFL. I'm going to be in the NFL. And just all these huge dreams and all this confidence just coming out of these kids was just so awesome. But what happens by the time these kids get to high school and things like that is we've sucked all that energy out of them, right? All that confidence out of them. And Jack Canfield talks about this a lot, that, you know, we dream kill our kids as they're going through life. And I don't think we did that, but maybe a little bit. We would, you know, try to encourage our kids to do something a little bit more conservative. But I was just so awesome. I walked out of there just on air because these kids made me feel so good about just listening to them and their confidence and what they wanted to do in life. And there was no maybe. It was like, this is what I'm going to do. We need to have that same attitude. If there's something you want to do and you're not doing it today, you need to get that attitude. This is what I'm going to do. I'm telling you, this podcast, and if you look at I'm not getting tons of listeners. I'm not getting hardly any listeners, but I'm not quitting, and I'll figure out how to get listeners, and I'll get the content, and I'll do all the things, because I can tell you that with 100% certainty, this and speaking in front of groups is what I really love to do. I don't have any problem. I'm not nervous. I don't mind doing that. I can think, quickly. And after the first of the year, my goal is to do more public speaking, and I'm going to do it one way or another. It's going to happen because it's just my favorite thing to do. And when I started looking at other jobs and things like that, I said, yeah, I could do that. I'd be good at it. And I might like it a lot, but I don't know if I'll love it. So I love these podcasts. I want to get in front of people and speak to them. I want to encourage people. I want to be showing them their superpowers, right? I want them to think differently. I want them to wake up in the morning and jump out of bed, right? Because they have something to live for. They have their children and their spouses and their friends. And I just want them to just walk out of their house on air. And it's very possible. Can I get rid of your problems? No, can't do that. You can't get rid of mine either. But that's okay, because problems are just part of life. And I used to have a guy that worked at Pepsi. Never cared for this guy, to be honest with you. But one thing he used to say that was awesome is, there's no such thing as a problem. It's all opportunities. And you know what? He's right. If you come up against something and it has to make you think different, then think differently and, try to do something that's going to make it a positive experience instead of a negative. We have so many good things to think about in life. And yes, the government right now is kind of in a state of flux. The world's always been in a state of flux. I got news for you younger people that are in their 20s. When I was in my 20s, things sucked too. The government sucked too. And you had this side of the world and this side of the world that wanted things done a certain way, and they don't come together. The reason life works and the reason you can be successful in anything you do is because none of us want the same things, right? I used to have a Ferrari on my screensaver, and if you saw this Ferrari, you'd go, man, that's a badass car. I don't like the color, and that's okay, because that's your business. Or maybe you want a Porsche, or maybe you want whatever it is. Maybe you want a white tree, maybe you want a green tree for Christmas, or whatever you guys celebrate next month. Man, all I got to say is I hope that it's the best holidays ever. We've been through a rough patch the last 2 years, 19, 18, 21 months, whatever. Did it suck? Totally. Did a lot of good things come out of it? 100%. Tons of stuff came out of it. I wouldn't be doing this podcast if it wasn't for COVID. I wouldn't know as much I do about technology now if it wasn't for COVID. I knew technology, but not like I know now. I wouldn't be messing with lighting and new cameras and things like that if it wasn't for COVID. So did some good things come out of it? 100%. I learned that I can be with my wife 24 hours a day, and it's not a problem at all. I learned that my kids are very good at adapting to things. I've had some of my kids had great successes the last 18 months, and I'm just excited about what their future is going to be like. I'm excited about next week. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. Christmas is my ultimate favorite. So, you can dwell on the bad stuff. You can dwell, and I know some people had a rough go of it during COVID, and psychologically, I did. I had a hard time, adapting and things like that. May have adapted too much now. I need to get out more and do some things. So, anyway, man, I could go. Me. I could probably go on for hours, but there's no reason for that. Listen, I want you to have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Spend some time with your families. Take a couple deep breaths. We're not waiting until January 1st to make things change, right? We're going to change today or tomorrow or in an hour or whatever. It's all those baby steps. We talked about that before, one thing at a time. So remember, you can get over any limitation. And if you need help with that, you can always email me and I'll help you do whatever way I can. I know a lot of people, if you need something in a specific field, let me know. I can probably find somebody to help you. Practice telling that story. Practice telling the story you want people to hear, right? It's up to you. It's not somebody else writing your story. You're writing the story. We did this podcast before. You need to get out there and write your own story. You need to build up that self-confidence. If that's looking in the mirror and finding good things about you, then look in the mirror and find good things about you. Listen to other people. They know you better than you know yourself sometimes. And no more excuses. I mean, I would just cut that out of my no limits thing. Just no more excuses. Don't give me that shit that you can't do it because of this reason. You can do anything you want. So if it's making excuses and you're not moving forward, then knock it off. That's all I'm going to say. Is it that easy to change? Yes, it really is. If you really commit, you write things down, you have that big goal at the end, but you take those little baby steps. It might take you in all kinds of different directions, but just keep that one goal in mind. Sometimes you're going to, you'll make a change thinking you're going to get the results you get and you don't. It's okay. Take that result, put it towards positive stuff. If you say you're going to work out tomorrow and you go and the gym's closed, then go the next day or walk home or do something. Look, I keep things pretty simple. I'm not going to come on here and tell you I'm a psychologist, do all this bullshit stuff. I'm not going to write a book and tell you all the things that you should do. When I do start doing my public speaking, it's not going to be as matter of fact. It's not going to be you have to do it this exact way or it won't work. Everybody does things different. It's kind of like telling an artist how to paint or how to draw. You can't do that. They do it on their own. So I'm telling you, you have your own specific way of doing things. That's fine. Don't listen to other people. Do what you know is right and what you need to do. If you want to learn some things from other people, that's one thing. But to do it exactly like them, it'll never happen. Don't turn yourself into that person. Take some of the advice that they give you. Take some of the things you see them do. If they work for you, do them. If they don't do them. All right. So this is the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. Please share my podcast as much as you can. I need to get my numbers up. I'll figure out ways to do that, but I need your help too, because if you share it, say it was a good podcast, your friends are going to watch it too or listen to it. edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. Please contact me if you have a guest or you'd like to be a guest on my show. And listen, let's make 2022 the biggest kick-ass year ever. And let's not forget that there's still 6 weeks, 8 weeks left, 6 weeks, I guess, left in 2021. Let's make those the best 6 weeks ever. If you have some opportunity to meet some new people, meet some new people. When you're in the grocery store, smile and say thank you to the checker. Say if someone's having a hard time, a hard day, just remember they might have had something that you can't even fathom dealing with. So be kind to people. Get ready for a kick-ass year and happy Thanksgiving. I'll be on. I might do a podcast next week, but we'll see. And anyway, have a great day. Share. Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. And I will see you all quite soon. Thank you very much.